Hello everyone and a very good afternoon to all. I am Radil Mishra on behalf of Care Ratings welcome you to a live webinar and discussion on will Indian pharma players weather burgeoning USFDA actions. Care Ratings sincerely appreciate your time in joining us for this webinar. To take you further on this, may I introduce our speakers for today. We have with us in Mumbai Mr. Sanjay Kumar Agarwal. Mr. Agarwal is a senior director at Care Ratings. He has over 23 years of experience in the field of ratings, banking and infra finance. Prior to joining Care Ratings, Mr. Agarwal has worked in ICCI Bank and IFCI. He has a bachelor's degree in commerce and had a grad CWA and a fellow membership of the ICAI. He is also qualified as financial risk manager from GAP USA and a certified financial planner from FPSP India. Our second speaker for today is Mr. Vidhyasagar, who will be joining us from our Hyderabad office. Vidhyasagar is working with Care Ratings as Associate Director. He is the rating head for AP and Telangana region at Care Ratings, having over 11 years of experience. He is involved in ratings of large and medium corporates across several sectors. He has worked with organizations like ING Vaishya Bank and Reliance Capital Limited. He is an MBA from Bharti Dasan Institute of Management, Trichy. He is also a GARB certified financial risk manager, FRM, and has passed CFA level 2 USA. Our third speaker for today, again from our Hyderabad office, would be Mr. D. Naveen Kumar. Naveen is working as manager at Care Ratings and has over 8 years of experience in credit risk analysis. He is involved in ratings of large and medium corporates across several sectors. He is an MBA from Department of Management of Science, Pune University, and has done his BTech from Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University. We'll begin the webinar with the opening comments from Mr. Sanjay Agarwal at Mumbai. Thereafter, Mr. Vidhyasagar and Naveen from our Hyderabad office will take you to the presentation. In case of queries, please key in your questions in the slot provided. We'll be having a QA session at the end of the presentation. I repeat, in case of any queries, please key in your questions in the slot provided. We'll be having a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Now may I request Mr. Agarwal to begin the opening remark.
Thank you, Mridul. Good afternoon to one and to all. In light of today's topic, that is, will Indian pharma players weather burgeoning US FDA actions? Would like to first of all present that the Indian pharmaceutical industry is ranked third globally in terms of volume and 13th in terms of value. Out of the total Indian pharma industry size, exports contribute about 45 to 50%, of which almost one-third is contributed by the United States of America. Assessing the action taken by the US regulatory authority becomes critical for Indian pharmaceutical sector. Pharma industry across the globe benchmarks the standard of regulatory processes carried out by the Food and Drug Administration of USA. India, which has the highest number of US FDA approved plants outside of US itself, has been confronted with slew of warning letters and import alerts from the said regulatory authority, which specially were accentuated during the last 5 years, that is, from FY12 to FY17. The imposition of such actions has adverse bearing not only on the normal operations and in turn on the financial of the company, but also affects its global brand image and future prospects. It will be apt to say that the US FDA action against Indian pharma companies during the recent times are over highlighted by the media. However, CARE believes that the regulatory agency is not biased to any specific country. Further, it is understood that the action taken by US FDA against Indian companies are relatively low compared to that of other global peers, considering the lion chunk of A&D approvals garnered by Indian pharma players. In our presentation, we shall be covering in detail on some of the obscure topics about US FDA in terms of regulatory enforcements and making them more vivid and perceptible. In the presentation, we shall be discussing on CARE's analysis on the classification of violations cited by FDA for Indian pharma companies, impact of warning letters and import alerts on them, and the companies which are impacted in wake of the USFDA alerts. With this, I hand over the session to my colleagues in Hyderabad, Vidhyasagar and D. Naveen Kumar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. My colleague Mr. Sanjay Agarwal has taken us through what we will be covering briefly in this presentation. The market size of around 33 billion US dollar in 2016. Indian pharmaceutical industry is ranked third global in terms of volume. However, in terms of value, it is ranked 13th. The reason for higher rank in volume and lower rank in value is primarily attributed to predominance of Indian pharma market in generic segment. Indian pharma industry has sailed through various crests and troughs of both industry and economic cycles during the last 2 decades, with a healthy growth rate of about 10 to 15% both in domestic and export market. However, the growth of this industry during last 5 years has remained stunted with reasons such as introduction of drug price control order 2013 and increasing number of drugs under its ambit every year, and also other reasons being heightened scrutiny for regulatory authorities and increasing competition from the global players. Considering which, CARE has analyzed the growth of industry under 3 scenarios: adverse, normal and favorable. Considering an adverse scenario of 7%, Indian pharmaceutical sector is expected to grow to 43 billion USD in 2020. Similarly, by considering a normal growth rate of 10%, the market size is expected to reach at about 48 billion USD. Considering a favorable growth of 12%, the market size is expected to reach at about $52 billion USD. What is the key attractive proposition for the global players from the regulator market to operate in India? It is primarily the cost advantage across the various segments and value chain of the pharma industry. India is not only strong in technology, which is getting reflected with the second largest number of USFDA approved plants, but also it provides significant cost advantage vis-a-vis the cost incurred in the developed countries. So the table depicts a comparison between the developed countries and India. The cost of production in India is as low as 50% as compared to that of the developed countries, and R&D cost in India is just 12.5% of that of the developed countries, and clinical trial is even lower, like at 10% as compared to the developed countries. Other reasons why this Indian pharmaceutical industry has been an attractive destination. This is for the kind of updates that the industry has bagged with perseverance over the past few years. India has about 400 US FDA plants, of which API and formulation share 55 and 45% respectively. Whereas if you compare with the USA, which has 515 FDA approved plants, their API to formulation share is 24% and 76%. And the next major competitor for India is China, which has 210 FDA plants, and the API to formulation ratio stands at 80% to 20%. This reflects that Chinese companies are more into API, whereas US companies are more into formulation, and Indian companies to large extent in significant difference between these two. And this is part to the other key parameters which reflects India's technical superiority is the DMFs filed by Indian companies. Around 216 companies are there, and number of sites with EU's GMP compliance are about 630. WHO GMP certified plants as per drug control general of India are about 1,400. This apart, India enjoys around 30% of generic market share in Africa and together. India is one of the leading bulk suppliers globally with over 2,000 API manufacturing units. India's manufacturing prowess in formulations is validated by the fact that it manufactures more than 60,000 products across all therapeutic segments. India is a leading center for CRAMS due to its cost advantage, as mentioned earlier. It's as low as 1/10 as compared to that of the developed countries. Indian pharma players primarily major players are scoring the highest in terms of A&D approvals. Their average share of A&D approvals during calendar year 2012 to calendar year 2016 has remained held at about 34%. Let us understand what is ANDA or ANDA and its implication on the companies. ANDA is abbreviated new drug application, an application submitted by companies to US generic drug approval for an existing licensed medication or already approved drug. ANDA is submitted to FDA Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, which provides for the review and ultimate approval for the generic drug product. Once approved, an applicant may manufacture and market the generic product to the American public. A generic drug product is the one that is comparable to an innovator drug product in all the parameters including quality, performance characteristics and the intended use. And it goes without saying that it should be cheaper than that of the innovator drug. Why is ANDA so important? Why so much of importance is given for a company filing ANDA? ANDA gives any company a product pipeline and it gives healthy revenue visibility for the company in medium term to longer term. The quantum of the visibility depends upon the complexity of the product and criticality of the drug to the general public. This particular slide depicts the dynamics of generics market in North America, which includes even Canada as Mexico. The generic retail market in North America is poised to grow at about 5% with a market size of about $70 to $80 billion. And it accounts for about 38% of the global market share. Further, the market penetration of these generics is more than 80%. So this provides huge opportunity for the Indian players who has necessary technology and cost advantage as compared to the regulated markets to explore into the market and gain a significant market share. The issues raised by USFDA towards Indian pharma companies attract special attention because USA contributes about 33% of total Indian pharma exports. And Indian pharma companies over decades of arduous efforts has gradually developed the necessary technology, capacities, etc. to meet the demand and explore the opportunities provided by global regulator markets. By dint of the aforesaid and building healthy A&D approvals has helped the industry not only to garner higher share in terms of volume but also in terms of value. As depicted in the table, in terms of volume, India's share in US generic market during the calendar year 2010 to 2016 has increased from 10% to 18%. Similarly, in terms of value, it has increased from 12% to 16% during the same period. During the last decade, Indian pharma companies have made seamless transition in terms of ANDA quality of ANDA filings and introduction of same in the market. The domestic players have gradually shifted from manufacturing of simple generics to specialty products, complex generics, and also obtaining more number of para 4 filings apart from para 3 filing. Para 3 filing, as most of us know, once a company gets a para 4 filing, it will get an approval to market the product once the patent expires. Whereas under para 4 filing, a company which is awarded a para 4 filing is given marketing exclusivity for 180 days. Exclusivity means that no company is allowed to launch their product during this period except this subject company and the innovator. As a result, there is a limited competition. As a first mover, this helps the manufacturer have an advantage to garner large market share given its cost advantage over the innovator, and helps maximize the profits without much competition. Now I would like to hand over the presentation to my colleague Mr. Naveen.
Thank you, Vidhyasagar. In the current presentation, we are going to discuss in detail about the sequence observed by USFDA in regulatory enforcement. FDA's Office of Regulatory Affairs is the lead office for all the field activities, including inspections, enforcement. USFDA agency carries out the inspections of the manufacturing facilities approved by them in regular intervals for export purpose. At the completion of the inspection, a report is prepared by the agency and is termed as Establishment Inspection Report, which details the inspection findings. During inspection, if the investigators do not observe any objectionable conditions at the plant site, the said manufacturing unit will continue to export to USA. However, if any objectionable conditions are observed, then based on the investigator's judgment, Form 483 is issued to the manufacturer. Therefore, thereafter, the companies are fostered to respond to Form 483 in writing with respect to corrective action plan and subsequently implement the plan expeditiously. If the response to Form 483 submitted by the company deemed insufficient, a warning letter may be issued by FDA to the respective firm. FDA then checks back to ensure that the corrections taken by the company are adequate. And in case they find the explanations or corrective measures taken by the company is inadequate, then the result can be that a warning letter restricts the ability of that manufacturing unit to supply new drugs to the US firm from that facility. The company in that case needs to appoint consultants to advise on corrective actions and also monitor implementation of the same. After this, the company approaches the FDA and makes requests for re-inspection. If the regulator is satisfied with the corrective measures, then it can issue the closeout letter. However, FDA can also choose to issue import alerts immediately whenever it determines that it already has sufficient evidence to conclude that the products manufactured from a specific unit appear to be adulterated, misbranded, or unapproved, and as serious deviations from GMP, then they may be refused from importing. In such cases, warning letter would follow the issue of import alerts. The agency issues import alert to allow for the detention without physical examination of the products in violation of FDA law and regulations. The basic purpose of import alert is to prevent violated products from being circulated in the United States, provide uniform coverage across the country, and place the responsibility back on the importer to ensure that the products being imported into the United States are in compliance with FDA laws and regulations. Post to this, the company needs to implement the appropriate remediation process religiously. Once the company is confident about the process, it can involve the USFDA to carry out the inspection post the implementation. Once the FDA finds that all the processes are in place, then unit can restart the export of the drugs to US. Now in the current slide, we are going to see the total number of inspection, water risk categories in detail. All the inspections carried out by USFDA are categorized in 3 groups. One is no action indicated, second one is voluntary action indicated, and third one is official action indicated. We shall discuss what in detail about what these actions are actually. First one is no action indicated, meaning no objectionable conditions or practices were found during the inspection. And second one is voluntary action indicated, meaning objectionable conditions were found and documented, but the action is not prepared, but the agency is not prepared to take on recommended regulatory action. Official action indicated, meaning objectionable conditions were found and regulatory action should be recommended. So the official action indicated is much more severe than that of the other two. Now coming to USA, which has maximum number of FDA approved plants with more than 3/4 of them being formulation units, has seen maximum number of inspections during calendar year 11 to 16. The number of inspections during calendar 11 to 12 was as high as 2,500. However, the same has reduced to 1,000 during calendar 13 and 15. During 16, the number of inspections was over 600. Some of the reasons is that many of the players are operating in USA and engage in manufacturing of branded drugs, specialty drugs, and development of new molecular entities which comprise of drug delivery. clinical trial 3 phases, and commercial production of the product in market post FDA review. Since the FDA carries out its as facilities that conduct studies in people, laboratories that conduct studies in animals and microorganisms, processing sites for FDA regulated products, pre-approval inspection for the company submits an application to FDA, routine inspection. However, it has to be noted that despite of the highest number of inspections carried out on US drug firms, only about 5% of the cases fall under official action indicated during the period calendar 11 to 16. On the other hand, China, which is our competitor, which is predominated with API units, that is about 80% primarily catering to generic drugs, has seen about 7% of the cases falling under official action indicated during the period calendar 11 to 16. Coming to India, out of the total inspections carried out during calendar 11 to 12, only about 5% of the cases were categorized under official action indicated. However, during 13 and 14, there was sudden surge in this category to 15 and 27% respectively, which subsequently were converted into warning letters and alerts. Further, during calendar 15, the total number of cases falling under official action indicated has reduced to about 75%, post which India has learned sufficient lessons from heightening regulatory requirements, have improved their processes leading to nil inspections falling under official action indicated category during CY16. As mentioned earlier in the slide, calendar 13 and 14, there was sudden surge in inspections falling under category of official action indicated to 15% and 27% respectively, which subsequently were converted into warning letters during calendar 30, 16 and 17. Therefore, we can see that the trend of warning letters and import alerts have seen upshot since calendar 14, which continue to decelerate the growth of the pharma companies with more number of warning letters and import alerts reported during calendar 15-16. In this slide, we are going to discuss the total number of the kind of classifications which we can make the warning letters observations have been made. About 50% of the warning letters issued in the Indian companies pertain to data manipulation, data integrity, and lack of data documentation discipline. Some of the comments reported by USFDA are as follows: failure to prevent unauthorized access to changes of data, failure to maintain complete data derived from all testing, failure to record activities at the time they are performed and destruction of original records, failure to maintain training records of employees involved in the manufacture of intermediates or API. There are elements which are very critical, such as failure in maintaining purity and inadequate investigation of the critical deviations from about 30%. And some of the observations cited by the USFDA are failure to adequately investigate the complaints and extend the investigations to other batches that have been affected, failure to adequately investigate, document out of specification results, and implement appropriate corrective actions. And with respect to unhygienic conditions, following are some of the observations: failure to maintain the buildings used in the manufacture, processing, packing, or holding of a drug product in a clean and sanitary condition, and keep them free from infestation of rodents, birds, insects, and other worms. Failure to prevent adequate washing and toilet facilities to working areas. Now in this slide, we shall discuss how does the issue of the warning letter and import alert affect the pharma companies. Manufacturing units that supply drugs to the US are inspected by FDA periodically. If there is no observation in the compliance with regulated standards, the facility continues to supply the US market. However, if any deviation is observed in the adherence to the mandated regulations, Form 483 is issued by FDA. This is the first level of action by FDA in case of violation from GMP. The company is given time to respond to the observations, and if the reply is not convincing, the FDA may issue a warning letter. If the issues raised in warning letter are not closed out within the appropriate timeline, FDA can issue an import alert, implying a ban on the facility from the supplying drugs to US. Nevertheless, if USFDA finds during the inspections which can have detrimental effect on the consumption of US populace, then they can even immediately issue an import alert to the facility, then followed by warning letter 2. The issue of the warning letter will restrict the manufacturing unit supply drugs to US market from that facility, resulting in revenue pull down of the company, particularly from US market and also from other markets subsequently if the issues are not closed out. In turn, these companies would then try to sell the products in unregulated markets, rest of the world market, domestic markets to book their revenue for the year. However, the companies then see adverse impact on their bottom lines on account of additional expenditures like fees of consultant appointed to advise on corrective actions to resolve issues, inspection fees of the agency for inspecting the facility, various approval fees, legal settlement fees, facility maintenance fees, which are fixed in nature. Apart from this, the company also experiences high competition from other players too. In this slide, we can see that the number of alerts which were being issued during FY 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 respectively. So CARE has analyzed and categorized all the turnovers of this company into various buckets and has analyzed the kind of effect it has on the EBITDA margins of the company. We have observed that the most of the companies all alerts have their EBITDA margins have been affected, and in the end of everything, maybe between 15%, especially when the companies of turnovers more than 4,000 to 8,000, the effect has been observed very severely. The EBITDA margins have declined anywhere between 15 to 20%. In the current slide, we are going to discuss the number of inspections which were being carried out in 255 Indian pharmaceutical companies. So CARE has analyzed what is the effect of these inspections and official action indicated import alerts for the companies, categorizing them with the turnovers more than 1,000 crores and less than 1,000 crores. Out of the 225, the pharma companies with turnover more than 1,000 crores were 27, and 33% of them have received import alert. And CARE has observed that the financial risk profiles of these companies have remained poised because these companies have a wide range of product portfolio, that is more than 100, catering across therapeutic segments, that is at least 4 to 6 therapeutic segments. They have geographically diversified revenue stream with basket of products across the regions, that is regulated, semi-regulated, unregulated markets, and domestic market too. They consistently invest in R&D and have products under pipeline which are under the process of receiving the approvals from various regulatory agencies. Now coming to remaining pharma companies, that is with turnovers of less than 1,000 crores, they are around 228 and 7.5% of them have received import alerts. And for the companies which are above 1,000 crores, as we discussed, it's 30%, whereas here it is 7.5%, very less. And the main reasons are the companies falling in this bracket have relatively low exposure to regulated markets with limited product portfolio. As these companies usually operate with 1 or 2 manufacturing units, hence their observance on CGMP would be much close, and they pay attention to details. Internal control systems are confined to have full control on regulation. Further, they deal with less complex and common generics. Apart from that, we also analyzed what is the kind of impact that the EBITDA margins would be facing in case the alerts wouldn't have been taken place. We observed that the EBITDA margins would have been better by at least 5 to 7% in the cases where the companies were faced with import alerts. With this, I would like to request Mr. Sanjay Agarwal to take over and conclude the session.
Thank you, Naveen and Vidya. CARE has analyzed top 15 Indian pharma companies which contributed about 65 to 70% of formulations and API exports to US. Over the past 6 years, that is FY12 to FY17, these large pharma companies have maintained strong risk profiles marked by consistent growth in total operating income, healthy profitability margins, although tapered moderately, lowered overall gearing, healthy interest coverage ratios, solid net worth, cash accruals, and liquidity. The companies learning the lesson from past events have started making dual ANDA filings in order to mitigate risks arising from heightening regulatory measures by the USFDA, or they are transferring the manufacturing of the product to another sites. Despite slew of regulatory measures taken by USFDA against Indian pharma companies, they still continue to earn major share of in garnering ANDA approvals, indicating the ability of the industry to weather the headwinds. While analyzing and observing the developing trends in Indian pharmaceutical industry for last 6 years, CARE believes that the top players operating in the industry, who generally derive about 30 to 40% of the total operating income from exports to US, has strong financial flexibility to tolerate the revenue dents caused due to alerts and tapering of profitability margins caused due to increased cost of compliance to rectify the issues. Further, CARE believes that these companies continue to maintain robust credit risk profiles over short term to medium term, with necessary cushion provided by low overall gearing, that is less than 0.6x, and ample liquidity, which is generally up about 800 to 1000 crores per company. However, the factor such as risk arising from stringent regulatory measures taken by the US FDA, its impact on the brand image of the company and the country, affecting the future flows of orders, etc., would form key rating sensitivities. With these words, I would like to hand the mic back to our moderator, Mridul Mishra. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, team. Dear participants, now we'll be taking a break of 2 minutes before we come back to take your queries. You are requested to start keying in the questions in the slot provided. I repeat, we'll be starting a Q&A session after taking a 2 minutes break. You are requested to start keying in your questions in the slot provided. Thank you.
Welcome back. We can start with the question and answer session. We'll start with the question from Mr. Roshinta. How are you looking at the appointment of Mr. Scott Gottlieb as USFDA chief? See, after his appointment, we are seeing more of A&D approvals, and there is emphasis from the government also to bring down the generic drug cost. The increase in A&D approvals will introduce more players in every specific segment. Primarily, the government is looking at the critical drugs to introduce more, to approve more ANDAs, and then so that price will come down in the market itself. So this may have an impact on the Indian players in terms of profitability margin. However, this also gives an opportunity for some players who are already waiting for the A&D approvals. So company to company it may vary. A company which has not availed the A&D approval may get quickly and get some share out of the critical drugs, and some of the companies which are already have A&D approval may lose their margins. Next question is from Mr. Jagannath Tiwari. You have mentioned that official action indicated to Indian pharma companies by USFDA has reduced to nil during calendar year 16. What is the status of companies from other countries in terms of official action indicated? If looking at the data, we found like for UK the total number of inspection which took place during calendar year 10 to 16 were around 187, out of which official action indicated were just 6, which is about 3%. And for Israel, which is also considered to be technically superior, had 8 inspections, on which only one official action indicated has been reported. Similarly, for Brazil, during calendar 10 to 15, there was no official action indicated. Cases have been reported. However, during calendar year 16, there has been 4 inspections, and of which 2 were reported under official action indicator. Next question is from Mr. Govind Reddy. With the increase in scrutiny by USFDA and Trump emphasis on change of demographics of US pharma industry, it is expected that margins of Indian pharma players dependent on such exports would be under pressure. Do you think that Indian pharma players need to do? What do you think that Indian pharma players need to do now in order to get back to the historical healthy growth rates? Yes, the actions taken by USFDA upon Indian pharma companies in the form of warning letters or import alerts are clipping the revenues, and also the increase in A&D approval with the new government also would affect the profitability margin by intensifying the competition. Further, there is also uncertainty of change in drug policy, which is hanging over the generic industry, as US President is insisting on changing the procedures from bidding and encouraging the local US pharma manufacturers. In the aforesaid backdrop, CARE believes that Indian pharma companies whose R&D expenditures, which has relatively remained low at about 5 to 7%, are primarily aimed at maintaining their dominance over the generic space. Now, Indian pharma companies have to raise their R&D expense and direct them towards increasing the share of complex drugs, biosimilars, or specialty drugs, thereby creating a high entry barrier, which results in lower competition and also higher margin eventually. Further, with the change in the operational dynamics, especially in global pharma industry, the Indian companies now have the shift to develop new molecular entities. Further, in view of decreasing number of drugs going off patent and increasing competition, it is imperative on Indian pharma companies to focus on developing new molecular entities instead of merely re-engineering the drugs developed by the counterparts from developed nations. Perhaps CARE believes that although the development of NME may have a longer gestation period along with high cost involvement, nonetheless the industry has to shift gears by focusing on this new innovative drugs. And generally it is estimated that to develop a new molecular entity costs somewhere between $5 to $6 billion. Since India has a very good cost advantage, as we have seen in our presentation, it can be like close to somewhat 50% of what they spend is what Indian companies may have to spend to come up with a new drug. It still gives them a significant cost advantage. So with from this it can be inferred revenues generated from generics are circumstantial and would fade away with the transformation of industry dynamics, whereas revenues from patented innovative drug is substantial and gives long-term stability.
Next question is from Mr. Venkatapati. His question is, generally how long does it take for a company to address the warning letters issued by USFDA? Thing is that a lot depends upon the kind of observations which USFDA inspectors make. For example, in calendar 2012, we have observed that USFDA has issued 3 warning letters, and all of them pertain to non-compliance of payment of fees. And as it was a small one, the same was rectified within a span of about 3 to 6 months. However, on the other hand, sometimes the observations requires a whole lot of reworking on the systems and procedures followed by the company. And this can take anywhere between 1 to 3 years to rectify. So what CARE analysis is that says is that, like based upon the USFDA website, still for most of the warning letters issued during 13, 14 and 15, the regulatory authorities yet to issue the closure letters. To speak in general sense, it may take anywhere between 2 to 3 years to rectify the issues and obtain the closure letters. Now, next question is from Mr. Raghuveer. His question is, could you cite some of the ludicrous or detrimental observations made by USFDA which Indian pharma companies could have easily taken care of? So some of the observations which we found to be very small and which Indian players could have taken care of, where investigators observed holes in the walls and the roof which allowed people to access production equipment in multiple manufacturing areas. That was one observation they made. The second observation was the investigator observed that there was a bird's nest on the ceiling. That was one more observation, which was very simple and it was easy to rectify. And one more was they observed a lizard exiting from the holes. So these are some of the very small observations which Indian companies could have been easily taken care of.
USFDA is around another question. Next question is also from Mr. Rushin Shah. USFDA has around pending backlog of 4,000 drugs. Do you think USFDA will start faster approval in near future? Yes, actually, as we mentioned in the first answer, its first question itself. From the general time, it takes almost 18 months. It takes for A&D approval. Now it is being emphasized to bring it down to 10 months, and also more products are likely to be introduced in key therapeutic segments, as I mentioned earlier. So this is likely to come down to around 10 months is what the expectation is from the market.
Again, this question is from Mr. Rushin. What will PM Narendra Modi will pitch to pharma agencies and regulatory according to you? One development which has happened after the new government has come in is that India till now has been depending heavily for the bulk drugs on China. So understanding this, understanding that there could be any kind of difficulty between both the countries and pharma industry can get affected. The current government is emphasizing more upon the setting up of the bulk drug units, and there have been many SOPs which have been given to these kind of companies which are coming up and setting up of the facility. So this is one kind of advancement which has happened in the current government.
I think those are the questions as of now, and I will hand over it to Mr. Mrudal to give the closing remarks.
Thank you, Vidhyasagar. Thank you, Naveen and Sanjay sir. I think with this we'll end the webinar session. Thanks again to all participants for taking the time out and being a part of this Care Ratings webinar. I hope the discussion was insightful and look forward to your participation. For any further queries, suggestion, as always, you are please welcome to write on cop.com@careratings.com. The feedback box would be appearing and the mail ID would be there. We request you to put in your feedbacks over there. Goodbye for now.